Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny, and today I'm going to help you guys make some reading choices based on your New Year's resolutions. I love the if you like this, try this videos, and I have not gotten to do it in a while, and I thought this would be the perfect time of year to do this because everyone's making New Year's resolutions. Maybe not everyone. Maybe you are someone who has put New Year's resolutions on the back burner and not done it. Maybe this will just be a fun video for you. But I have 4 categories of New Year's resolutions and some book recommendations to go with each. So without further ado, let's get started. The first resolution type that I'm going to talk about is no regrets. So if you are making some form of resolutions, your goals surrounding going for your goals, not worrying about the consequences and just like, I'm going to go for it with all I've got because that's what I want for myself. That's what these books are meant to inspire you to do. So the first of which is Tress of the Emerald Sea. By the way, these are not self-help books by any means. I'm not doing that type of resolution recommendations. They are fun fictional reads with the exception of one of them. They are not like going to help you reach goals by any means, but maybe they're going to help you read about people who are reaching goals. So Tress starts with Tress, who is a girl who is very content with her life at the beginning of this book. She's perfectly happy with where she's at, but life throws a wrench in her plans and she can no longer continue down the path she's continued on. And so she has to make some new goals and try some new things. And that's why I chose this for this prompt, because she definitely goes on an adventure and grows because of the obstacles that are put in her path. And I just think it's a lovely story of her and her journey. This is fantasy, as most of the recommendations on this list are. There is a magical world that she is in. The narrative voice of this book is very snarky and sassy. And this is a Cosmere book, but it is a standalone in the Cosmere, and there aren't so many Cosmere references in here that you would be lost. There might be a couple of moments that you're like, I know that that's referencing something, but I'm not sure what it is. But it doesn't prevent you from enjoying the story. Next, along the same lines, is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi. So this book follows Amina, and Amina is a retired pirate. And she has decided to settle down with her daughter and her mother and get out of the dangerous pirate life and set up a safe home for her family. But once again, life comes along, throws a wrench in your plans, and you have to change your goals. And a friend of hers seeks her out and essentially tells her that someone has been kidnapped and they want her to go essentially on one last ride, one last hurrah with her crew and find this person who has been kidnapped. And so she goes on an adventure. And once again, you see this character who, unlike Tress, who is young, we have Amina, who is not a young woman by any means. I can't remember how old she really is. I think she's middle-aged in this book, if I remember correctly. But she's definitely like old for a pirate and some of the dangerous things that she's doing, which definitely show. But her fervor in accomplishing her goals and keeping her crew safe and the friendship elements in this too. I absolutely love this story. And if you're thinking about going on a new adventure yourself this year, I think this will inspire you to do so. The next goal set is rest and relaxation. So if you are making a goal for yourself to do a little self-care this year and just really take it back a notch and relax a little bit, I have 2 book recommendations for you for this as well. The first is A Psalm for the Wild-Built, which is by Becky Chambers. I do not have a copy of this, so I'll just put a picture up on the screen so you guys can see. And this book exudes calm. I loved this story. This is about a tea monk and a robot. And you are in a world where robots have essentially left society to essentially fend for themselves. And they have gone off into the woods and never to be heard from again. However, one of them has returned and wants to know what humanity needs. And you spend this book traveling around with this monk and this robot, trying to answer this question and getting to know the people in these communities that they go to. You get to travel to a wilderness as well. I won't give you too much because this book is very, very short, but it's so wholesome and, like I said, very calming. So if you're looking for a book that's a little bit of an adventure, but also takes its time and relaxes you into the storyline, and you get to spend really a deep dive in with these characters, I think this book, I think you'll enjoy it. The second recommendation for this is probably an odd pick, but I absolutely thought that this was such a wholesome read, and that is The Goblin Emperor. This is political fantasy, and you are following a half goblin boy who is originally, I think, 5th in line for the royal throne. He was never trained to be an emperor, and everyone that is in front of him in the line of succession dies, and he becomes emperor. And the people in front of him in the line for succession died in mysterious circumstances, and so he has to kind of figure out, one, how to be emperor, because he was never trained for that, and also figure out who perhaps murdered the people, murdered his father and his brothers. And I thought that this was going to be more of a serious read, and it is, but it's also about friendships and relationships and being thrust into an environment you're not comfortable with and still trying to hold on to your soul and hold on to who you are. And I don't know what it was about this book, but it was so relaxing to me, and I think on this a lot. I've not purchased this for my collection because I can't decide what cover I want, because there are a couple of covers out there that I think are great, but I want to reread this book. I am currently in the process of getting through the series, but if you like political fantasy, but you also, like I said, like the rest and relaxation and just like the wholesome vibes, I think this book is amazing. The third resolution type that I have for you guys is productivity and health. So if you are making goals to be healthier this year, whether or not that's diet, exercise, treating yourself better as far as like sleep cycle, if you are making goals to be productive in your career or in your hobbies, this is the goal place for you. And the first recommendation I have for you guys is Foundryside. Foundryside is a fantasy book about a young thief who has an ability to essentially see using objects. So if she walks into a building and puts her hand on the ground, she can use her ability to essentially see the floor mat of the entire building just with a touch. And she steals something rather important and gets herself into some trouble with some very important people, and trouble ensues from there, and she has to try and figure out how to get out of it. This series, the reason I put this on this list is it is action-packed. If you want an action movie and a fantasy book, this is the series for you. Robert Jackson Bennett, who wrote this book, has another series come out this year, and I'm so excited because I want to live in another fantasy world that he has created, because it is just constantly one thing after another that you're running through. And so if you are wanting to be on a productivity kick and you want a book that's going to put you in the mood to just get stuff done, I definitely think this one's for you. The next recommendation is a little bit more of a serious recommendation, and that is Born a Crime. This is the only nonfiction on this list, but I do think if you don't know who Trevor Noah is, this is one of his memoirs. I think he has maybe 2 books out, or maybe he is putting out another book, but anyway, I think this was the first one that he published, and it's about his life as a child in South Africa. And it is about him being born a crime. He has parents that are mixed race, which was illegal at that time in South America, and it is about the repercussions of him being born a crime. That is the title of the book. And it's also about his life's journey when he was younger and how he became who he is, which he's a very successful comedian and a very successful talk show host. I absolutely love this. I don't read very many nonfiction books. This was one of the first ones that I picked up last year or maybe in 2021, and I read this in a couple of days. It was absolutely fantastic. It's heart-wrenching and horrible, but because of the fact that he has a comedic background, he has a way of telling the story where it is heart-wrenching and it is Some of the things that happen are absolutely horrible, and there's no excuse for how certain people acted or how certain governments acted, like what circumstances happened around this child's life. But the way that he tells it is also light bringing, and I need to reread this. After talking to you guys about it, I want to pick this up. And the reason I put it in the productivity category is because I do think that it is inspiring to see what crazy events someone can go through and essentially the fires that they walk through to become who they are. It's absolutely amazing to see. The last resolution type that I have for you guys is resolutions involving friends and family. So I have 2 recommendations once again for this. The first is The Mask of Mirrors. So this is a series that I just finished this year with The Labyrinth's Heart. Or did I finish it at the end of last year? It might have been the end of last year that I finished it, but whatever. So the first one is The Mask of Mirrors. This is a fantasy series where you are in a Venetian setting and you follow a thief, a young con artist who is trying to convince a noble family to essentially adopt her into their family in order to steal from them and then live a life of riches on her own. And she doesn't realize that the family that she is trying to get in with is not actually rich. And she ends up getting herself a little bit deeper into the noble society than she anticipates. And the amount of character building in this storyline, it's a trilogy, and the books are quite chunky. The characters are just absolutely amazing. The found family elements in this and the relationships that are built throughout the 3 books are just absolutely lovely. And so if you are wanting a reminder of how amazing friends and family can be, this is the series for you. Especially if you are talking about the family that you have made versus the family you were born with. This is definitely one of those stories as well. I just absolutely loved it. It is a little dense, so if you are going to give it a try and you haven't read any dense fantasy, my recommendation is that first off, you utilize the glossaries at the end of the books. There are dictionaries essentially for you guys to make sure you understand the fantasy language in the book, but also just to kind of go with the flow. And if you don't understand what something is doing, give it a little bit, because sometimes it clicks without you digging into it. So don't stop at every single thing you don't understand. Keep going with it, and then eventually, if it clicks, good. If it doesn't, maybe the series isn't for you, but I absolutely loved it. The last recommendation that I have for you guys is The Graveyard Book. I read this a couple of years ago and it was my favorite book of the year. This book, you follow a boy named Bod who, at the very beginning of the story, his parents are murdered and he ends up in a graveyard, and the people and beings in the graveyard take care of him and raise him. And so once again, you have this found family element. You have adventures that he's going on with and without the people who are in the cemetery with him. And you get to see him grow up in this circumstance and with these individuals, with the love and care of some people that you originally wouldn't think would be great at raising anybody, let alone a child whose parents were murdered. I absolutely love this. It's dark, but it's also sweet and wholesome. And this is another one that I would like to reread this year. So if you haven't read The Graveyard Book, give it a try. So those are my recommendations for the various types of New Year's resolutions that you guys might have created. If you have any recommendations for any of these categories on your own, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to add to this list. I thought this was a lot of fun to think about the different types of goals that people set at the beginning of the year and what stories I've read that actually go along with those goals. I've had a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.